Good morning. Yes, it's Friday. We're not going to have any debates today. We already finished all of the presidential debates just last night. So now we get to move forward. And forward is exactly where the markets are always looking, as we know. But again, I'm Pete Najarian, and this is the Take for Market Rebellion. So what are we looking at in the markets right now? Well, some disappointment. A lot of folks have obviously been watching day in and day out. When are we going to get anything in terms of stimulus? And it just keeps like a tease coming at us. We hear from Pelosi, we hear from Mnuchin, we hear from the president, we hear from all these various people about how the talks are going and where they are, and yet nothing yet. So that's something that just continues. Also, what continues, earnings season, and we are in the heart of it. We are really, it's early, but we're starting to get a little bit deeper into it. Next week, it's going to be a massive week. We've got all kinds of different tech names that are going to be coming out. So far, what does it look like so far? So far, it looks pretty good. You look at the earnings season, and definitely better than most had expected in terms of this quarter, and we're seeing some pretty strong numbers. Overall, there is some ups, there are some downs. Align Technology yesterday, up about 30%. 30% on a name like that already is a high dollar name that's moving up 30%. Absolutely magnificent move to the upside. We had CSX yesterday, moved up about 5% or so, pulled back a little bit during the day. Las Vegas Sands up as well. We had Coca-Cola, we had Tesla. Tesla got up to 445 before pulling on back. Chipotle, not so great. That was down about 5% early. We had that huge move out of Snap, and then we had the follow-up move out of Snap as well. So yesterday, just an amazing move to the upside over the last couple of trading sessions. This week has just been amazing for a couple of names, definitely with Snap being one of those names. So the Dow, it dropped near 28,000. But we did get a bounce. We had the NASDAQ also off about 100 points yesterday, only to come back and actually finish up into the green, up 21 points. But there was a lot of different issues going on, the NASDAQ moving all around. And yesterday, there was definitely a rotation, or at least for the day, or maybe the next couple of days, we're seeing at least the beginnings maybe of a rotation. And maybe a little bit of technology getting a little less hot than it has been. And maybe we're going to be moving to another area. I'll talk about that in just a second. We had the jobless claims as well. That was a number well beneath the number that was expected, around 800,000. They were expecting about 870,000. So that was a little bit better than expected. We did get that big flip out of the Dow. So we were down. Everybody talking about stimulus, and then all of a sudden talk about stimulus got a little bit more positive again. We had a nice little run to the upside. As a matter of fact, up about 150 points by the time we closed. I talked about the NASDAQ being up about 21 points. You know, it was a slower move in terms of the NASDAQ to the upside. It didn't have the same oomph that we kind of felt when we were looking over at the Dow itself. And I think part of the reason is what was really moving, what was powering it. Well, if we continue to see this, maybe we're finally going to see something from the financials, because the financials had a really nice day yesterday, up about 2% on the XLF. You had JP Morgan, American Express, Capital One, US Bank, PNC, Discover had a monster day as well. I'll tell you what, Capital One has been one of the more interesting and one of the better tells that we got from the unusual option activity, which started with, before they started buying any calls, they were selling puts, and they being the size people, the larger trading folks, the unusual option activity that we talk about all the time. We had initially some selling of puts, and then followed up with some call buying, but I don't know if anybody expected to see this stock make this kind of a run, especially as we got into this area of the season. But healthcare was strong yesterday as well. So there was a combination of some healthcare, some financials. Obviously, we saw some pickup coming from the NASDAQ. So obviously, some of the technology getting off of some of the pounding and moving, but not anything to the extent that we were seeing in the Dow. So I think that really was the takeaway from yesterday. So in the pre-markets today, we have post-debates, right? So do you think there's a lot of people out there that really have not made decisions? I really don't know if the debates, and this is just a personal commentary, but I don't know how much those debates are really influencing people one way or the other. It seems to me that people are divided. Either they're on this side or they're on this side, and the debates are some fun theater, but I think the reality is that that's why whatever comes out of those debates, for the most part, I don't know that we are seeing major moves in the markets right now. We all see what the polls are showing us, but in the past, the polls haven't been all that correct either. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes right there on that. But we do talk about these earnings all the time, and we continue as companies just continue to beat 77.5% of the companies reporting in the past quarter have been beats. They've been beating to the upside across on the earnings. So in the early indications this morning, we had some nice strength. We had the Dow up about 75 points or so. We also had the NASDAQ up about 25, maybe a little bit more than that, but not much. And then as we started to get into the trading day, early on, first half hour, started to pull back a little bit. Suddenly we were only up about 40 or 50 points on the Dow, then about 35 points. Now we just pushed into negative territory, down about 30 points right now for the Dow. NASDAQ down also about 30 points. The NASDAQ just slowly was bleeding off after not being up all that much, call it 24, 25 points. And then before you know it, it started to slip. And then here it is. It got into red territory long before the Dow. But now, about 48 minutes into the trading session, I'm looking red. And although the S&P 500 actually still up 3 points. So all three very close to flat, quite honestly, right now. But definitely the shift has pushed to the downside. We're watching the volatility index again, because the volatility index trading around that 27.5 level. Yesterday, we were trading up towards 29. We had a pretty decent day, by the way, in terms of volume yesterday. Again, about 27 million contracts. So we've continued to have this nice high level of volumes in terms of the option contracts that are trading out there on the derivative side in the equity world. We're looking today, again, at a little bit of follow-up from what I was talking about, though, the financials. Now, will they be able to hold on? Time will tell, obviously. But JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Capital One, again, US Bank, all in the positive and looking pretty strong once again. The XLF with a bit of a leadership role right now in terms of some of the major indices out there, the sectors out there. Healthcare as well. Healthcare looks really strong this morning. You got United Health, you got Merck, you got J&J, obviously Gilead. They've got that remdesivir FDA approval, so that stock was up about 4% or so. So a nice move, but you're not seeing the strength at all right now, at least early on, from technology. You're not seeing it from the chips. We talked about Intel with those numbers last night. The problem for Intel wasn't the earnings, and it wasn't really the revenue. The problem was the growth area, and the area where they are supposed to be taking over and starting to move to the upside is data center. Well, data center came in about 7% below what was expected, and that's a major problem. So that's what people are focused on, and rightfully so. That's what we are looking at. You look at all the different aspects of some of these companies, but you hear the earnings, you see where the revenues are, but you know what the reality is where are they struggling? Where are they making hay? And right now, they're definitely struggling with data center. Competition from NVIDIA, competition from AMD, and it's something that last quarter was an issue as well. So this is something that is becoming a bit of a problem right now for Intel. And are they going to be able to come out of this spin? 10% move to the downside, call it, very close to that. Not so great. So sticking with the unusual option activity that we are seeing and sticking with the semiconductor area, how about this Micron? So Micron hit earlier in the week. It hit on Tuesday, hit on Thursday. They were going farther out in time than we've been seeing. We talked about this all year about how the majority of the option paper that we have been seeing in the derivative space, it has been 1 week out, 2 weeks out, maybe a month out, really long going out about 2 months. But we aren't just seeing, that is what we're seeing. We're not seeing that further out into the future type of option activity where we're seeing the unusual. We're seeing it in the very short term. So what we did see earlier in the week on Tuesday and again on Thursday was going a little bit further in time, going all the way out into the spring, going to January, those kind of trades. Well, today, kind of bringing it right back, but this is the third time this week that Micron has hit for us. The stock's trading 53 and a quarter, call it, when these options were trading. And at that time, about 16,000 of the November 57.5 calls were bought for, call it, $1. So a nice big chunk bought at that point in time, stock 53 and a quarter. These are about, call it, $4 out of the money, but they are rolling from the 52.5s in November. So a successful trade that they're rolling and taking off a big chunk of that trade, most of that trade, and rolling it to the upside out in November. So that's something that's pretty interesting. So I think that we wanted to point that out because as we're looking around early on, there's been activity across the board, different categories. But I think sticking with the semiconductor space, particularly because of what we're seeing from Intel and also the reaction from some of the other names out there, I think it's important maybe to just look at this name and say, you know what, Micron has made a bit of a move. Maybe there's a little bit more. Somebody definitely putting down some pretty good capital to say there is a little bit more there. Guys, I want everybody to have a great weekend. I want everybody to have the knowledge that they need to have in this derivatives world. I keep reading stories and hearing about people that get in the options world, but they don't really have any educational level. And because of that, the experience can start off just great. Everything can be wonderful. But do you really know what you're doing? And that's a big key. So having the understanding, knowledge is king. We bring it up all the time. Our guys here at Market Rebellion do a fantastic job. So I would encourage you to at least understand more about the mechanics of the options world before you get in, or at some point it's going to be a terrible experience and you won't even know why. So that's the important part of this whole thing. My Golden Gophers are playing Michigan this weekend. Game day is here, ESPN. It's going to be really, really exciting. I've done a few things locally here for the pregame and all the rest of that, so it should be pretty great. Little brown jug on the line. I'm obviously pulling for my Golden Gophers. How could I not? But I tell you what, Jim Harbaugh, that was the quarterback at Michigan when I played linebacker at Minnesota. He got the best of us. He got the best of me my senior year as well. They took us to the woodshed that year, but we still had a great year under Lou Holtz. It was phenomenal. But I'll tell you what, this is a big game. This, unfortunately, is a lopsided game where Michigan's definitely got control. But maybe this is our year. We got a great offense coming back, and I encourage you to watch that game on Saturday night, 6:30 kickoff. ABC should be a lot of fun. Folks, have a great weekend. Enjoy the weekend. Be safe, and we'll see you on Monday. Oh, and I'll see you at noon today, Eastern time. I'll see you on the halftime report. Got some unusual coming at you on the halftime report, of course. Obviously, I'm going to be put to the fire with Intel, but that's all right as well. You know what? You have some winners, you got some losers. You got to back yourself up and decide, am I going to be holding on to some of these? We'll be talking about some of that as we get into the halftime report today. Folks, have a great weekend. And we also have the cocktail hour later on this afternoon as well. So that's going to be an exciting thing. We do at Market Rebellion every Friday. We really look forward to it. And it's a casual time to look back and look at the week and look forward as well and just talk about things and what we were seeing and maybe some of what we didn't get a chance to talk to during the week that maybe we get an opportunity to on this Friday. So look forward to that. Usually a nice cocktail in our hand, having a good time. Folks, have a great weekend.